Good morning, Bruno. Can you hear me? I cannot hear you, Bruno.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have a specific agenda unless others in the meeting have. We can even close early. I didn't want to send a cancel before attending the meeting.
Well, same here. I don't have anything in particular.
Yeah. Just give it a minute to see if Marcus might join, and usually the only external participant.
Marcus was not available a week ago, so he may be on vacation still. I don't know.
I see. Okay, that's possible. Okay, so okay. Okay, yeah. So probably I'll just add to the notes that I'm not sharing the meeting notes. I'm just going to paste it on the chat in case you want to take a look. The day closing the meeting early. No particular agenda. Okay.
So what is happening with the PDO contracts? Any news?
So we are developing the contract for the tokenization of data sets used in MedPerf, right?
Mhm.
So we had the HF contracts. Mick was supposed to review, is still not. I haven't gotten any review yet. That is still an outstanding PR, right? So the way we have decided to also do PRs is we will put dev branches and keep the PRs there until it's really ready to merge. I think Mick liked it that way. Hi, Benny. So that is still outstanding. Of course, it doesn't have a fancy interface or anything, but it's a complete contract family that PR really allows you to package almost any HF model that can be hosted on HF as an API, right? So HF allows you to host models for inferencing that can be accessed via APIs as long as you have the token, right? As long as you are the owner of the model. So what that PR allows you is if you are the owner of a model, you keep it private, but you want to give access to somebody else, but you don't want to share the token, you can use PDO to give policy-based access to that model. So where the request gets routed via PDO after policy checking. Thereby you get to preserve the confidentiality of your token and anything else that you might want to preserve about the model, right? So it's just a simple replacement of OpenVINO, and it gets us one step. I mean, because as far as we are concerned, right, we don't really care if it's HF or OpenVINO, right? Because OpenVINO is always challenging because OpenVINO is never meant to be deployed as an inferencing service, right? It's really meant to be used locally if you have a model that you want to deploy on your premises, right? But HF is really solving that problem of like hosting and inferencing. And I don't even know the middleware that HF uses, right, to deploy models and all. They have their own technologies, right? So it doesn't matter. So of course, as of now, the PR uses example models that are already available as API. So I don't even know how those models are hosted. But there are instructions on that page, right? We don't have to bother, right? So that PR is already out there. We are trying to socialize that. That's part of
So
what.
wait a second. The Hugging Face uses some tokens to access the models.
Yeah, correct.
And
It's like yeah, correct.
okay, so you're protecting those tokens with the PDO contract.
Yes, and you can put a policy around how to use those tokens to access those models for inference.
Yeah, as part of the contract itself,
Yes,
basically.
yes. That's all. It's a very simple thing, but that's exactly what Hugging Face lacks today. So that's not a feature that Hugging Face gives out of the box, right?
Okay, so from token to use for access control, you basically switch to PDO keys essentially.
Yes, exactly, right? So the point is, so you can, if you are somebody new who is looking to use a model, you first will go to Hugging Face. You will discover that, there is this model that I want to use because Hugging Face really solves the problem of discovery of assets and things like that, right? Because they have a very nice UI. But then it would be said that, hey, this is a private model. I cannot give you access to this unless if you route it via PDO. Of course, to get to that level, we need some level of integration with Hugging Face infrastructure itself. Right? That part, that is probably where that's the really out of scope of the research. That's where the two product teams must talk, right? And Intel.
Yeah. That's right.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
so
yeah.
and right now you have this working with PDO, and of
Yes.
course the token is still well usable for accessing the model through Hugging Face directly as well.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And
Right.
and where do you deploy PDO? Through Hugging Face directly or on Azure or anywhere you want, basically at this point.
That's really anywhere you want. As of now, it's right on our local machines, right? But for testing, but if you're asking eventually, right, that again becomes a conversation with Hugging Face as to how they want to use this technology, right? If they say, we don't care about this technology, it's your headache, you make it available somehow, and we will write a joint blog and they leave it at that, but then we tell the user how to deploy it, that is definitely possible, right? We can definitely give the user instructions to deploy it in Azure, right? Secured by hardware and all of that. I mean, secured by like SGX and all of that, and then we should also give the prospective user instructions to check the attestation and things like that before participating in the contract. That right. So I mean, there is a scrapping problem that has to be solved, right? Because even in PDO, we don't entirely solve that problem, right? Because if I'm a new contract participant who wants to participate in an already deployed PDO, like how do I attest the whole pipeline, right? Yes, the ledger attests on place, but how do I attest the ledger, right? How do I know it is a ledger or PDO infrastructure that I'm supposed to talk to, right? So there are,
Yeah, I got
I
it.
mean, yeah, right. So right, that like how do I attest yeah, right. So there are things that we haven't even solved in PDO, but yeah, I mean, so it is not just a question for like Hugging Face as to it's also challenging. So this is part of the challenge even for us to go and make a solid proposal to Hugging Face, other than to show them that, hey, we have something like this, but we cannot get into the realm of discussing with them as to how they would want to integrate it, because we ourselves don't have a picture for deployment of PDO, honestly.
Got it. This problem is not much different than what ITA is doing, the Intel Trust Authority, and simply because but they have a faithful verification. That's how they call it, faithful
Yeah.
verification thing.
Yeah.
And now that they switched to the Intel Trust platform from Amazon,
Can I just interrupt you? Remember this community meeting?
yeah, I know.
So make sure that whatever you're saying is non-confidential.
Yeah, it's not, because
Okay.
it's still a product out there, and faithful
Okay.
verification is
Perfect. Yeah.
it's something that you could use if you're
Yeah.
enrolled
Yeah.
in that. So
Yeah.
that's supposed to verify,
Yeah.
well,
So that
IK
is
services and the ledger.
that makes total sense, right? So I mean, if Intel or any other company for that matter has a strategy for like hosting a confidential computing based smart contract platform, we should ideally means video should ideally be leveraging that, at least for the video's transaction processor part, right? Because otherwise we have to solve the same problem that these people are solving.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean that is not possible, right? I mean that's not going to happen. Right. So yeah, I mean this is something to be discussed. Not a new problem, but yeah.
I have one more curiosity, which is
Yeah.
how on Hugging Face, how do you create or upload a model, and then you get this token you're talking about?
Oh yeah. So token is just a token for your account. Okay. So it is
Okay.
really interesting. Token for your account. So you go to Hugging Face, you have an account. There is a tab where you say that generate a token. Token is one time. After you get the token, you cannot see it. So you're supposed to save it appropriately, and you can define the scope of the token in that page, right? So what can you use the token for? Because Hugging Face has an enormous number of things that can be done by interacting via APIs, right? So you can define the scope of the token on Hugging Face itself, right? But there is no scope where you can give access control to somebody else, because that's not solved. And that's what we want to solve, right? So you can like use the token to like upload a model, like edit a model, or do inferencing with a model, as long as you hold the token, right? You can interact with the data sets, right? You can interact with public data sets or only your own data sets. So they have a list of scope permissions that you can set.
Okay,
Right?
but those are always related to that token. So
Yes, that's related to token that you have in your position.
oh, so you can only give the token to other people, and other
Yes,
people will impersonate you, essentially.
exactly. That's the only way. Or there is
I
another
see.
option. There is another option. You can, if you're in an organization, you can upload the model as part of an organizational ID, right? So then you can set permissions for somebody inside that organization to access that model, right? For example, Intel can host a model and let Intel employees use it, but then it becomes like then like Intel as a company has to directly work with Hugging Face to make it happen, right? But if I am a model developer somewhere, and most of the times these people are like academicians, researchers, or well, working in the healthcare field about new models, untested models that they don't even want to release, right? But they just want to let others use it and give feedback, right? So like, how do you make it happen?
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. I hope that answers your questions.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So now what we are doing, what specifically Penny is doing, he could talk more about it, is okay, now we have this framework, right, which for tokenizing access control, policy-based access control, right? We did originally with OpenVINO, now with Hugging Face. Now we are extending to another use case where the asset is a MetPerf data set, and the use or the capability that the data set wants to expose is evaluating a third-party model on that asset, right? So it's also inferencing, but the asset is a data set, right? Rather than the model. So the model that you want to do inferencing against comes as part of the request. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So let's say you are the data owner, and you have a data that you have in your silo, and you're not going to share the data anywhere. So the data is going to be hosted on your environment, right? So it's essentially the federated evaluation setting, right? Where you have data and you want to help somebody else evaluate or validate their model on your data, in which they ship the model to your environment and you like evaluate it on their behalf and send them back only the result.
Okay.
Right. And so the
makes
asset,
sense.
so the asset is a data set, and you want to tokenize it and make it available for an experiment, larger experiment. Right. An experiment is a federated validation experiment. So essentially the PDO guardian that you have to build is a guardian. So as of today, it is done with this MedPerf platform, wherein they use the notion of ML cubes to package workloads. So workload could be data preparation or model validation or metrics calculation. I mean, like anything you want to calculate as part of the pipeline is packaged as a cube, right? And this like ML cube is essentially a fancy term for a special wrapper around a Docker image version of your workload. So you package your specific part of the compute as a Docker image, and you wrap it in a specific way so that these computes become compatible with each other. They can communicate with each other without doing anything special, right?
And this is still deployable through Hugging Face or
No,
not?
no. This is now
This is
this
separate.
project I'm talking is it doesn't have anything to do with Hugging Face.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this is purely for the ML Commons project, and is entirely like Etni's internship here at Intel, right? So yeah, so probably I should keep quiet and let Etni talk.
I
Etni,
guess that's, yeah,
would
it's
you like
most
to
likely
give a
everything.
5 to 10 minute overview of your PDO use case for tokenizing MedPerf datasets?
You mean now?
Yes, right. Yeah, just talk.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to share anything, just talk.
Okay. So it's basically integrating the PDO framework to the MapPerf workflow for inferencing for a federated evaluation work. So it basically works like when so in MapPerf there's a experiment committee and there's a model owner and data owner. So what happens specifically for the evaluation phase is that there's a MapPerf there's a ML committee that's gonna associate the different experiments with all the model owners, associate the experiment with the models and the data set. So it's kind of specify what kind of data set can be, what kind of models can be evaluated over this registered data set. And when that's done, that's when our PDO contracts kicks in. So basically the experiment committee is gonna go to the PDO contract and ask for an initialization of the evaluation. The PDO contract gonna issue a work order, which is a sequence of allowed models to be executed over the specific data set wrapped with the capabilities. And then the experiment committee gonna use these work orders to go to the Digital Guardian service, where the Guardian service has already hosted the data set, all the ML materials, including the preparing data set and the model itself, and also the result evaluation materials. So once the experiment committee submit the work order to the Digital Guardian, the Guardian is gonna initialize this evaluation task, running all the experiments, and then return the results to the well, actually, it should be the like the data owner should initialize the experiment, and then the results will be returned to the data owner, and the data owner gonna put those results to the MapPerf server, and the experiment committee gonna download those results from the MapPerf server, and also the results are wrapped with the org order data, so it can be verified by the experiment committee. That's the basic workflow.
So let me see if I understood. The Guardian acts as a point for authentication and authorization. I assume it releases a token to whoever is issuing the request, and with that token, then you will the requester will go to the data owner.
No, Bruno, I'm going to interrupt you. I have to interrupt you. So the Guardian does not do any policy checking. The way you're saying
Yes.
sounds as if Guardian is doing policy checking. Guardian is just a capability calculator, right? Guardian knows to calculate capabilities. Capabilities are generated by PDO contract. Guardian trusts the PDO contract. Contract checks policy.
Yep.
Does that make sense? This is the same thing regardless of the asset that you're tokenizing in PDO. This goes back to the token Guardian protocol generally. So even in the Hugging Face use case, we have a Guardian, and the Guardian essentially is a wrapper around the HF endpoint, right?
Yep.
And okay, so but if I have to up level the MetPerf pipeline, right? So as of today in MetPerf, they have a system whereby there is a hard-coded policy for how to conduct an experiment, right? Including details such as how and who gets to use the data sets in the experiment, how and who gets to use the model being validated, how the pipeline state machine carries itself through the experiment. So everything is kind of hard-coded. And so there is a lot of opportunity for us to improve the MetPerf architecture overall in a manner that you can use a single MetPerf instance to coordinate any number of simultaneous experiments, whereby the MetPerf server acts as a place for registration and discovery of identities of participants, assets, and experiments. But whereas the actual policies of an experiment or policies of how to use a data or how to use a model that's being validated, all of them sit outside in PDO contracts that are trusted by this MetPerf instance, right? So, and this architecture has a lot of advantages, right? Even to start with auditability of an experiment. Now, if you want to go to FDA and say that, hey, can you audit my experiment? You don't have to open up the entire system of MetPerf. You just have to give them your associated PDO contract that captures your experiment policy. And now this gives the data owner more control over the data, whereby they can go and specify a flexible use policy for their data for a specific experiment. And it gives a way for the model owner to purchase access rights to the data to help them validate their model, right? And it helps the model owner attach the results of the validation as part of the model scorecard in a privacy preserving, integrity preserving manner, that then now they can use as a validated model to go back to places like Hugging Face and try and sell the model for a higher dollar value, right? So there are a lot of advantages, ideally for this architecture, if architected and implemented well, right? But for the
Mhm.
internship, you're starting with a small part of this overall architecture, whereby the focus is on tokenizing data set part of this overall architecture and building out a prototype.
Got it.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, but the thing is, like you said, like all of this will, at the end of the day, come to the question as to like, how are you deploying video? So far, we have completely ignored that question and always said that it's your headache.
Um,
You know, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just leave it at that. Yes,
well,
it makes sense to
there
say
may
that in
be
the initial phases of a project, but this project is now something that we want. If we want the project to survive, it is, yeah, we have to be careful how we answer that.
so the thing is that the how to say, so the contract, so the PDO contract seems to be so I would separate the contracts from the ledger part, although they go hand in hand a little bit. But and the thing is that the contract seems to be always useful, and in the end, you want a way to verify them. Now, in PDO, we do that through the ledger. Okay, and
It is not
regarding
just
the
the,
ledger,
it is not just the ledger, right? So let's imagine that MedPerf wants to open up these extra features to their customers, and their customers are most likely data scientists. So what they want to see, both MedPerf and their customers want to see, is a deployed instance of PDO, including Ledger, P services, and E services that is managed for them. Yes, and for them to verify the trustworthiness of that deployment, if it is decentralized, even better, right? Or if they can participate by in that deployment by hosting their own each services, even better, right? But we should have a seed deployment to which they can join and attach themselves to, right? And but to start with, they're not even likely to do that, right? They're likely to, even for them to do a toy experiment from their side, we should have a deployment and an ample library of useful contracts. That is where we will participate with them, right? We will participate with MedPerf and their customers to understand what their specific policies are, and we will make that library, right, of contracts that make sense. And we have to have good interfaces for them to quickly come and deploy those contracts. But the point is, but so that part, I agree, that falls on us to work with them to understand their policies, convert them into PDO contract code. We will do it. But who owns responsibility for deploying and managing the infrastructure? That there has to be an answer to that.
So there has to be an answer. What I want to say is that there may not be a single answer,
Okay.
or there may be different answers at different points in time.
Agreed.
Because I think I heard you saying, okay, there is a problem with the ledger, and you need to. The problem is to understand which one is the authoritative instance, and that's a concern. But does that really mean that they have to deploy it as a service and use a single instance? Or there may be cases in which you will deploy one ledger per account and just log the operations of a single account somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Fair
could
enough,
be.
right? Yeah. No. Fair enough. No, I agree. So these are. No. Yeah, I agree. So this is. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, all that I'm saying is that, like, unless we try out some of these things or have concrete answers, some of these things, these conversations become really hard because everything is like hypothetical at this point, right?
Yes, I understand that. Yeah, you have to leave all the options open, and these well, makes the solution space way bigger and harder for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I totally appreciate your interest in understanding what's going on and your comments. Yeah, and saying that the ITA team is, yeah, and that's the thing, right? We have to find a way for PDO project to partner with some of these other managed confidential computing based ledger projects out there, whether it be from Intel or anybody else. For example,
Yeah,
if
I don't
there's
think I can go further
yeah.
in the discussion with ITA, but
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it could even be like a managed CCF instance. They do that, right? Now, Microsoft also offers a paid service, right? So as a managed CCF
Yeah.
instance. So we need to understand all these things and explore options around it, right? Because like, how are we even going to propose an architecture like around this to FDA to say that, hey, this is the architecture that we are going to use to test a model that eventually will be submitted to you for approval, right? You have to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have anything else for today unless you both have something.
No, I don't have anything either.
Okay, Benny.
Nope.
Okay, so we can close early. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yep. Thank everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.